Today we're going to walk through a brief overview of the capabilities of the P6 EPPM solution as demonstrated to T-Mobile in November of 2016. As we walk through these capabilities, I'd like you to keep three keys in mind. First of all, with P6, we want to provide enhanced visibility of the projects and the portfolios that are being managed in the system. We also want to provide increased efficiency across your project management discipline. In other words, allowing people to do their work as quickly and as efficiently as possible. We also want to improve communication across your project team so that people can collaborate as they perform their work. How P6 accomplishes this is through a set of core project management capabilities, including the ability to provide global visibility across all of the projects being managed in the system in a hierarchy, providing core schedule management capabilities that allow activities, resources, schedules, and costs to all be managed from a single location. And finally, providing integrated risk management capabilities so that project managers can have visibility into what potential risks could impact their project schedule. In addition to these project management capabilities, P6 includes a set of resource management facilities that allow resource managers to have views into the work that is being performed by their teams of resources and allow that work to be divided or categorized by department, skill, and other categories. The capability to assess the demand for resources across the projects and be able to assign resources to those projects efficiently. And tools to find and resolve resource overallocations. So to understand who's working on what and be able to move resources around to where they're needed to perform project work. Finally, P6 includes a set of collaboration capabilities that allow team members to work together more efficiently. One aspect of collaboration is document management. So P6 provides full document management capabilities that extend out to mobile devices as well, so that documents can be viewed and can be accessed and input from the field. There are also a set of dashboarding and reporting capabilities provided in P6 so that users can get the information that they need to out of the system for the projects that they're managing, either from a template-based reporting environment or from a real-time dashboarding environment. And then finally, P6 includes mobile capabilities through the team member application that allows users to access activity information from their mobile device, whether it be a smartphone, a tablet, or even a mobile browser. So these capabilities are what we're going to look at as we demonstrate the system. All right, let's begin our demonstration with the mobile application in P6 called Team Member. And so you can see I've got my iPad up right now, and the scenario that we're going to demonstrate is a field engineer who is accessing their work from P6 Team Member and is updating the status of that work for the project manager. So as you can see, there's the P6 application on the iPad, which I'm going to open up now. And so what we can see within that application is that the team member is presented with a list of activities across all of the projects that this field engineer is working on. So as you can see, each of the project names appears along with the activities that have been assigned to that resource on each of the projects. The ability to filter across those projects is available as well. As you can see here, we can view not just all the activities, but perhaps only activities that are required to be worked on today. We can also filter by project. So in addition to looking at all of the projects, I can choose to narrow down to an individual project. Perhaps this resource is on site at NRG Stadium and needs to understand what work needs to be performed on site on this particular day. And as you can see right now, there are a number of activities that require that resource's attention. The resource then has the opportunity to look at individual activities. So for instance, this site feasibility visit activity that the field engineer is engaged in, the engineer can see right now that they were planned to work a day on it. They've got 4 hours remaining. They've already spent 5 hours on it. They can go in and log additional time. They can look at aspects of this activity. For instance, if they need to understand if there's any comments that have been added, what functional area this activity belongs to. Also be able to look at any documents that have been attached to this activity. So for instance, some site pictures have been included that allow the field engineer to see that it looks like the foundation is looking good thus far, based on the site visit. And so the field engineer can actually go in and say, okay, I've worked on this an additional hour, and my expectation is there's probably just a couple hours left on this activity. So that might be all of the, and then of course at the bottom there, the resource has the opportunity to save those changes, right, which we'll actually go in and save right now. Now, one of the other things that the resource may wish to do is, if we, for instance, go down to this construction activity a little bit later down here, we may have determined upon additional inspection that there's actually some flooding condition that's the case on site, in which case this construction activity will be impacted. So the field engineer has the opportunity to, first of all, take a picture on the top right hand side here. I don't actually have an iPad that's connected to the site, so I'm just going to grab a picture from my existing iPad here, and for instance in this case, from existing site pictures, I may have determined that there is a flooding condition that's in place right now. And so I can go in and I can, for instance, mark up this document. And I'm just going to do some doodling in this case here. That might be all I really need to do in this case. But what I've done is now the field engineer has attached that condition to this construction activity, and as a result of this flooding, the field engineer may have determined that, there's going to be a significant delay to this activity, so I'm actually going to push this activity out by a couple of months here. Perhaps even 3 months in this case. So we'll push it out to 160 days, for instance. So that might be the update that we are performing on this particular activity. And so I'll go in and I'll save this as well. Some of the other things that the field engineer can do is also attach some explanation for why this is going on. And so in this case, the field engineer is actually going to initiate a discussion with the project manager and actually let him know through a discussion that there's an issue with that with that activity. So now that that discussion is in place, everything that needs to be updated has been updated by that field engineer. So at this point, we can go back to the office and see the impact of these changes to the project schedule, and allow the project manager to take action on any of the field updates that have been applied by the field engineer. Now that we've seen how field engineers and other team members have the opportunity to view and provide updates and status for the work that they're performing in the field, let's see how that impacts the project manager and the schedules that they are managing. So I'm going to bring up P6 Web on my desktop here, and as you can see here, I'm actually in our project page, and I'm looking across the group of projects that is being managed as part of this project manager's purveyance. So a number of different projects, as you saw, some of which the field engineer was engaged in, including that NRG stadium project, and the specific metrics for the projects that this project manager is interested in viewing, including who owns the project, where the project is located, what the status of the project is, and so on and so forth. This view is actually a subset of all of the potential projects that are being managed in the system. So we're looking at projects that are specific to this project manager's responsibilities. We may change our view to a more global view here, where we can actually see that those projects are part of a larger deployment of projects that are being managed within P6. And so what we can see here is that those projects that we're reviewing are actually part of a larger group that includes projects for different kinds of facilities, projects that could be IT related, projects that might be related to other kinds of manufacturing and other initiatives. So the basic idea here is that these filtered views allow users to view just the information that they are interested in, or a more global view of information within the system. And so from this global view, we have the opportunity to drill down into more specific details. For instance, the details of the NRG project that the team member was engaged in. The dashboard page within P6 provides executives and project managers a global view of portfolios and the general health and status of those portfolios. So, for instance, right now we're looking at this telco dashboard that's specifically looking at our Houston Super Bowl portfolio, which are essentially the projects that we had seen earlier from a project management perspective. What we can see here is that executives have visibility into the schedule status of all the projects, the ability to drill into individual projects. So for instance, if we want to see how this NRG Stadium project has been doing from a milestone perspective, we can see that the first few milestones look like they're on track, but as we go a little bit further down, we can see that we're actually running a little bit late, that our schedule finish is a couple of weeks behind our original baseline for the first party assignment complete and the second party complete. But as we go a little bit further down the line, we can see that actually once we reach the application submitted milestone, we're actually a couple of weeks ahead, and that kind of runs its way across the rest of the schedule. And so we can see down here at the bottom, by the time the schedule is complete, we're actually well ahead of the game here, right? That the construction complete and the on-air complete is actually, well ahead of where we need to be. We can see further evidence of that by looking at additional panes within our dashboard. So the schedule performance pane allows us to see that this Energy Stadium project is well ahead of schedule and is projected to be well ahead of schedule on completion, even though it looks like we're a little bit over from a labor perspective. So it gives us immediate visibility into the health and the status of projects. This project health portlet allows us to have a more textual description of what's going on in the individual projects, so that this Energy Stadium is 8% complete. The system expects that it will be slightly over budget, but ahead of schedule. So it gives you a little bit of a textual description. And there are some additional portlets that we've included in this dashboard that allow us to see risks happening across our projects, allow us to see any issues that are occurring, and also some graphical indications of breakout of projects by venue, breakout of where each of the projects is in their milestone, and where they are by owner. So these are all different kinds of dashboard representations of the projects. And it's from these dashboard representations that we can drill into the specifics of individual projects. So if I click on the Energy Stadium, I can see what's going on for each individual milestone for that Energy Stadium. And if I go back to the dashboard and want to view the risk characteristics, I can go in and click on individual risks, which would take me to the risk page for the project in question and allow me to view the details of all of the risks for the Energy Stadium project. So as we can see here, we've got a group of risks, and we can see the general scoring of each of the risks, any potential response plans that we've identified, and any kind of costs that are associated with those risks. From a resource perspective, we have the opportunity within this project to go into the team usage page, which will allow us to see how resources are being deployed across the Energy Stadium project. So from here we can see each of the resources that have been assigned to this project, and for instance that field engineer that had been providing some status updates, we can drill into that field engineer and get a histogram view of the work that this field engineer is performing, not just on the Energy Stadium project but other projects in the system as well. And we can see where there's overallocation. When we click into that, we can see the details of that overallocation. If we want to get a spreadsheet view, which provides some additional detail, we can see that this field engineer is actually working on several projects, and we can see where there's overallocation. For instance, this 11 days of overallocation, it primarily was work on the Marriott Marquis project, for instance, that was driving that overallocation, versus over here in February, this overallocation is actually being driven by multiple projects being worked on simultaneously. From here, we also have the opportunity to drill into individual projects to see the work that's being performed on those projects and be able to email the project manager to let them know of any imbalances that we may need to correct. Activities view will actually now focus in on the details of that energy stadium project. So what we can see here is all of the project details for the energy stadium project, as well as you can see here down at the bottom, an indicator that allows the project manager to see that there are some status updates that require their attention. So if I click on this, the project manager can immediately see all of the work that has been performed on this project and any updates that require their attention. So there are some updates that came in the past that are being held for additional review, but down here at the bottom is that update that we saw most recently, where the field engineer actually decided that they were going to push out the construction activity by a few months as a result of those flooding conditions, as well as some updates to the site feasibility visit up here, and so on. So the project manager has the opportunity to accept all of these changes. And so, for instance, I'm actually going to go in and accept all of the changes that have been updated on the system, and allow those changes to impact the schedule. So now, actually, I'm going to actually just reduce the size of this so we can get a better view. We can see that for each of the phases of the project, we can get visibility into the status of each of those phases, and most importantly, the deployment phase, which is where we're at on this particular schedule. We can see the dates for each of the activities. We can see the updates that have been applied. So for instance, that construction activity that the field engineer determined needed to be pushed out as a result of that flooding condition, we can see that the remaining duration has been updated. And in fact, we can, as a project manager, we can actually go back in and we can see what updates have been applied, either at the activity level or at the assignment level. And so we can see here that all of the changes to that particular activity have been captured and can be reviewed at a later date. So once the project manager is satisfied with the updates that have been applied to this project schedule, they have the opportunity to basically accept all of those and reschedule the project to see the impact of all of the changes that have been applied. For instance, that change to the construction activity had a few impacts. So first of all, the construction activity is now on the critical path, and as we'll see in a moment, this change in the duration of the construction activity and its inclusion in the critical path actually had an impact on the overall project schedule. And the way that we can see that is if we actually go over to our global dashboard, we'll be able to see immediately upon looking at the schedule performance portlet that now our Energy Stadium project, while still currently early, is showing that it's projected to be 20 days late. And this was as a result of course, the construction activity being pushed out. So the basic idea there is that these kind of schedule updates immediately impact the dashboards and provide immediate notification to users of any conditions that they need to take action on. So this was a brief overview of the capabilities of P6 EPPM and how multiple users can collaborate in providing updates to project schedules and managing those project schedules.